All right, this is just a quick attempt. I'm going to see how this goes as to how fast I can do this. If not, I'll redo it properly. All right, so this is just a quick attempt at trying to describe, at least that I can remember, the big pursuit, or the biggest pursuit that they did on me. And this was, I think this might have happened actually before the first actual hit attempt took place as well, like that mother of all gang stalking days that happened when the big, what I always say is, when the big boys came down. But that was ridiculous. Anyway, so this is the biggest pursuit that I remember, and then this is, but it's not an actual hit attempt because I don't think they actually had time to get one in, especially where I was and due to what I did. But they would have tried. Actually, you know what? I think I can safely call it one now, because due to actually what I had to do at the end of it. I had just pulled into a particular spot for the time being that I would, again, this is close to those first two venues on the first two hit attempts, but close to, not in the exact spot, but close to. I pulled in there, and for, I can pretty much, always see, or at least I could at that time with what they were doing at that time, who was doing the stupid ass gang stalking crap. They follow, they sequentially follow and all that crap. But, so I pulled into here. I knew that due to what they'd been doing to me lately, that either the more serious vehicles or the higher ranking people or whatever would probably be along soon. So, So anyway, waiting for them to come along. I didn't even want to wait for that, because I was just stressed. I was tired. I was stressed out enough as it was. And remember, during the daytimes with all of this, I'm still trying to get things in order and look for a place to stay and all this stuff. And then all night, I have to deal with what else? I have to deal with threats on my life. What else, right? Because, your game, your live game to them, that's all you are. And that's exactly what they wanted. That's exactly what they were able to get. So all day, all night, in the day, you've got, a little, forgive my language here, but I'm sorry. I'm just going to express it here. Damn it, I got a right to. The little punk-ass gang members that would do all the, as threatening as they could be, gang stalking during the day. One of them actually came up and actually tapped me with his car when I was out of my vehicle, if you can believe that. And so I just sit there and just stared him down to see what he'd do, because you got to understand, he's hit me now. So, and he tried his best to stare back. I was just sitting there waiting for him to get out. And I was going to do what I do best, and I'll leave that be. But as I thought, he tried to give his best stink eye look available. But I watched him do that as he pulled away. So anyway, but at night is when all this crap would go down. But anyway, before all of this started, I knew pretty much who was going to be showing up shortly. So this is one of the first times now that I had begun to realize that as many were following as there were. So I just, got out of the vehicle and I just I parked, and I just, kind of walked around to other places and stuff like that. Then here's what I started to see. And let's put it this way, I had gone down specific roads, small roads, that were close to where I actually ended up parking. Just before that, in a particular sequence, well, what I started to see was these, the big boys, if you watch the last part of this, or any of the first two parts, I guess, especially on the second one, that's, the Dodge, the black Dodge Chargers, and, like I said, the license plates varied from Washington, D.C. to Virginia to Maryland to, that area. Well, especially when it came to, sniffing the route, those guys were the ones mainly doing it. When there's violence and hands-on involved, of course, they're sitting in the background watching the people that they pay do it. But those guys were the ones doing that. And I watched them go down each road, small road, in order that I had already been down about maybe 20 minutes earlier. So, we leave some kind of neon type of after trail where we go, anyway, and I was sitting there watching this whole thing, not in my vehicle, of course. I'm not going to say where I was at this point, but this is kind of similar to, if you ever catch the segment called, Mr. Register and the Dobermans. It was kind of like that. I was just in a, undisclosed location, but I was sitting there watching the whole thing, and they went down each road in order because they were trying to look, it was sitting right there in front of them, the vehicle was. They were going all around it, and then finally they ended up finding it, and then of course, they ended up going to it and driving slowly past and looking in and all that crap. Forget my language, anyhow. So that was kind of weird how that went down. Well, so when I saw what they were doing, I'm like, are you serious? So, now remember, this is either the very first time that I had realized I was under that much surveillance, that seriously, with that many high-ranking people, that much. Probably the first time as far as like being that serious of one. So, well, I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? I'm out of the vehicle, and I had my, so I don't think it's wise that I actually mention exactly where or why I went to wherever it was I went, but I went to a few places. And apparently, well, let's just say one of the places I wound up at seemed to be where an awful lot of those supposed vehicles that had been gang stalking me earlier. At this point, this is not a gang stalk, it's a freaking hunt. You know, well, let's just say there was an awful lot of them that seemed to be parked at this one particular place. And some people may call it a safe house. Let's just say it was an apartment complex. Because eventually, I guess, remember the neon after trail, whatever? I don't know, but I don't know if it was because of, well, I'm not going to mention what I did from that point, but whether these particular, and this time there was 4 in the car of this second largest ethnic group, as I comprehended, that was in the vehicle this time. And every single look on their face seemed like one of just absolute shock. And I'm pretty sure I know why that was. And let's just say I might have hit a little closer to home than they were probably comfortable with. Now I'll drop that right there. So anyway, let's just say I proceeded to leave them and that situation, and I'm sorry, I can't share right now of how that was done, but all of a sudden, eventually, now I really start hearing all of these vehicles just revving back and forth, racing back and forth. And when I actually caught a glimpse of them, because by this time now, and I think I've done nothing wrong here. All I did was get out of my freaking car. Well, and this was way more than once. But all these cars are racing back and forth. I can hear them, I can smell them, I can see them in most cases. But now here comes the all-famous helicopter with a spotlight. Like they're actually hunting, some, chasey, whatever you call it. But anyway, I'm like, you gotta be kidding. And then one of the vehicles had actually come out of a direction that I was getting ready to get into position where I could have a beat on, but I guess apparently they had made that turn just before I could do that, so it forced me to immediately kind of duck for some kind of cover, and that's the time that I had actually ended up having to run for it, and I ran quite a bit from this time until it was over, but ended up into like a 12-foot ravine that was full of about 5 feet of water, because the only thing that was sticking up out of it, and I mean I was literally swimming, was my head. And I lost, for the moment, I was like, whoa, because I didn't know at that point, because I had flipped and fell and flipped and tossed her. I, for a moment, lost kind of exactly where I was. But if you've ever dived in that kind of water, and it's 50 degrees or so, you're freezing. And when you're wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt on top of that, just imagine. I was heavier than you can imagine and having to literally sprint by the end of this thing. And it's only a couple more minutes here. I'll be right back with you in part 2 of this.